have open forum. Do we have anybody that wants to speak to this? Otherwise, open forum is available at the option of the board chairperson. The ground rules have been established to ensure orderly conduct of business. We don't have anyone. I'll bypass the rest of this stuff. We need a motion on the minutes of the August meeting.
This is Chuck. I'd move to approve them.
I'll second that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Action on a consent agenda item. Payment of bills, payroll, contracted service agreements.
Justin, I move to approve the consent agenda items.
Okay.
Chuck, I'd
Is there
second
a
that.
second?
Chuck, second.
Okay, roll call, please, Angie.
Robert Beaver,
Yes.
Edrewski Malik,
Yes.
Kristen Kraft,
Yes.
Craig Gerlach,
Yes.
Justin Herder,
Yes.
Richard Murden,
Yes.
Linnea Miller,
Yes.
Charles Spargo,
Yes.
Motion carried. Chairperson report. Welcome to the meeting, everybody. Gordy is asked to be excused. The Fall Boards Association meeting is going to be held virtually October 23rd. It will be featuring Nicolay College Perception of Technical Colleges, Graduate Outcomes, and the Marketing Consortium. Board meeting will be held the afternoon of October 23rd. Betty, would you like to share anything with the annual planning session?
That meeting was also held virtually. And I think we decided that we'll continue as we have in the past. And hopefully at some point, we'll be able to meet face to face.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? ACCT Leadership Congress will be held October 5th through the 8th. It's going to be virtually. Misty is registered for the conference. If anyone is interested in attending, please contact Angie to make arrangements. Bob, Betty, and Rick plan to attend. And by the way, because Shelley will do a much better job of this than I, can you talk just briefly about our presentation down there, Shelley?
Absolutely, I will. I have that as part of my president's report too, Bob.
Oh, okay. I'll wait then. Our next meeting date is Monday, October 19th. We'll plan to meet on Wisconsin Rapids. I would seriously doubt that'll work out where the things are going, but we'll see. Committee meetings at 4:15, committee of the whole at 5, and regular meeting at 5:20. Any additional comments? Okay, if not, the president's report.
Okay, thank you, Bob. So just a few things in the categories that we have on the agenda. Under the campus activities, we had, let's see, 7 different things I wanted to mention to you. First is our COVID response team just continues to meet at a minimum 2 times a week, where we're again evaluating the COVID situation, getting information from our health department, and really acting as we need to. I can tell you processes continue to work, and I'm really excited because on the agenda today, you will see under discussion and action, I've asked a number of executive teams to give you kind of a high level synopsis of what we've been doing for fall semester. So I'm hoping that that will again continue to give confidence in what we are doing. Budget scenarios, I want you to know that this is also the time where we're starting to fill in all the different pieces of the puzzle for some of the assumptions that we had put in play with building the budget, and now some of them we're getting the actual numbers. So if you recall, around June 1st, we were doing some scenarios depending on what our enrollment may be, what our state aid may be, what our property value increase or decrease may be, all these different assumptions. So I can tell you that we got the team back together, the executive team working with Greg and the finance team, and reworked those scenarios now September 1st to kind of see what could the gap be. I can tell you that we are going to meet next week to, again, so the end of September, to fill in a couple more pieces to the puzzle. So we're very hopeful that, let's just say, probably at the November meeting, we'll be able to give you kind of a good synopsis where we are and where we will be and if there is any shortfall. And I know that I think in our presentation today, we're going to talk a little bit about, we know there will be some gaps because of the expenses. We know that enrollment is down a little bit, could definitely be worse. We still don't know about state budget, but a couple of the pieces of the puzzle that we do know is what our property values are coming in as a district. We know what our net new construction number will be. We have a little bit better idea what the state aid reduction will be. We had initially planned maybe up to a 20% state aid reduction. We now are thinking that maybe the maximum would only be 10%. So again, we're kind of reworking some numbers. So just know that we're working a lot on that and really trying to keep abreast of exactly where we're at. So when we do need to react and respond and make some decisions, we will do that, but we will do what we've done. We're trying to get the data before we make a decision because we know there could be some impact and we want to make sure we're doing the right things. Also wanting to mention that employee engagement continues to be a priority for us at the college, even in the times of COVID. We know that with having probably 50% of our employees still working from home, everybody's working different schedules. We're trying to figure out how do we continue to keep our morale up. We know that that it's just, there's a lot going on in people's personal life as well. Many of them, as you know, are working with their local school district. They may have a spouse whose schedule has also been affected. So just trying to do what we can to keep everybody up, feeling positive, and continuing to feel like they're making a difference. But employee engagement right now is a word that administration is talking a lot about. The ACCT proposal, yes, we're so excited, and I need to really give a kudos to the marketing team for working to really put this video together. It is amazing. You will be getting a link so you will be able to watch it. It's outstanding. I'm so proud that this is going to be seen through the ACCT convention because that really means that across the country, people will be able to see what we're doing. You may recall that the presentation that we submitted was 3 missions, 1 project, Mid-State Healthcare Simulation Center. So the video really starts out with Bobby doing an introduction about our college, and then moves to myself, and then moves to Chris Steins, who's the CEO of Aspirus, then really bringing in Mike Bovey from the Legacy Foundation, giving a few remarks, also having Deb Stencil and Colleen Kane and Kim, who's the Vice President of Aspirus Patient Care. Everybody is part of this video, and again, the backdrops, the words that people say, I know you're going to be really proud. That proposal is going to be on the docket to be shown on Tuesday, October 6th, from 3:15 to 4:15. But again, if you are registered as part of our Mid-State team, you will be able to view this at any time with the presentations, really. So again, if you're not available when that officially is going to be shown, you'll be able to see it after that date. So, but you will get to see it probably beforehand. We will get it sent out, but it's really, really good. We have already had to submit it to them. So I think it's just going to be one more piece that you'll be proud of, and how we are adapting when we need to. Also, as you know, we have a big accreditation visit that's going to be happening in May. And I want you to know that myself and Beth and Deb, we continue to prepare for that visit. We were on a webinar that was recently held, really labeled Preparing for a Focus Visit. And again, we learned some valuable information. Really nothing that we knew, but just a reinforcement that what we are doing is all the right things. So feeling very optimistic about that. Also, we had our foundation track event that happened a couple of Fridays ago. Very proud. We had a number of teams. I think it was more than 8 teams that participated. I know everybody that was there had a really good time. And I know there will be a foundation report out in the near future to you to let you know the dollars that we were able to raise for our students. And then last week, I had sent out to you again how we have adapted for the events and things that we think are important for our students and for our community. What else can we do and how can we do something? And it was our scholarship reception. So we typically have a big scholarship reception that happens here in September where we bring people to campus. Not being able to do that now, it was just not an option to do nothing. So our marketing team worked with our foundation team, and I was very proud of what they came together. They really pulled together a virtual scholarship awards reception. And hopefully, I know a couple of you had sent me an email back that you were able to see it and said what a nice job it was. So if you haven't been able to have a chance yet to view that, I would really recommend that you do that. So again, what we've been trying to do is not just say, no, we're not going to do it, but how can we do it? How can we do it? Under community involvement, a couple of things. So our manufacturing project, we will definitely be coming back to you and giving you kind of an update on where that is. This would be in regards to our Advanced Manufacturing Engineering Technology and Apprenticeship Center. This is a hard time. We're very much trying to balance, trying to really establish our partner interests in the community to help us possibly raise funds to put up a building, and trying to balance that with the sensitivity of being in a national pandemic. So our industry partners are continuing to work with us, and I can tell you just since our last board meeting, which was on August 17th, I and some of the Mid-State team, we've actually met with 11 different companies, just being able to share what the project is about and really talking about some possibilities for donation to this project. So I can tell you that we've had some positive visits. And again, we'll see where they all land. We want to be sensitive. This is a time when all organizations are trying to, I think, just be able to get through COVID. So we're trying to balance that of the interest in the project, but also not having our hand out at a time that can be very difficult for institutions, which I can tell you is a difficult balancing act. On top of that, I did not know if I had shared with you, but wanted to under community involvement, that I have been asked to sit on the board of directors for the Southwood County YMCA. And very much feel that that is something I should do. Community standpoint and also from a representative from Mid-State. So I have accepted that board of director position. It will be for 3 years. I have looked at what else is on my plate and feel that I can adequately do that. Otherwise, I would not do it. But it will just be one more way that I can represent us in the community. As far as WTCS updates and presentation activities, been very busy. So part of that DBA planning meeting that Betty had mentioned, I was fortunate to be able to come onto that call and the President's Association update. And then just last week, we had a busy day here at Mid-State, which was on Wednesday, September 16th. It was the WTCS State Board meeting, and Mid-State was the virtual host. You recall, this was supposed to be the year where we were hosting the District Boards Association on top of the, so we now have both of them completed, but both have been able to be done in a virtual standpoint. And I will tell you that sometimes I think that's just as hard as doing it face to face. Just on last Wednesday, to tell you how many points we had on the state board agenda, there were really 6 different times that they got to hear from me or the staff here. And I think that we knocked it out of the park. I need to say that I actually received an email from Morna after the day that really just said, great showcase of MSTC today. So I'm really proud of that. But I was able to do the official welcome to the day. I was able to then provide a 20-minute review of really what's going on at Mid-State. And I labeled that as kind of a Mid-State tour of the district, and started out in Wisconsin Rapids and then traveled to Stevens Point and then to Marshfield and then to Adams, and really talk about the partnerships that we have throughout the district. So I think that that went well. It was kind of a virtual tour is what I called it. We then were able to profile Luke, who is one of our 2020 ambassadors, and be able to tell his story that I can tell you the state board really loved hearing his story and was able to ask some questions. And then we were able to give out our Future Maker Partner Award, which is something that we do for an employer in our district every 4 years. And this year, the college had selected Aspirus Riverview Hospital to be that recipient because of all of their work with us on the Healthcare Simulation Center. So we had Chris Dines and we also had Kim here to be able to receive the award and be able to say a few words to the state board. I have to say that that went really well. And even with the ambassador, we were able to show a video, but then we also had arranged Luke to be here. So then we also, on the state board, there's a teaching and learning segment, and we had our own Rick Anderson, who's the associate dean down in protective service and the human service area, who was able to be on the EMS panel, and boy, he represented us so well. And then on top of that, I got to do the President's Association report as well. So let me tell you, they got a lot of Shelley that day and a lot about Midstate. But I think that, you know, sometimes it's about the pure quantity, and they got a lot of that. But I'm just really proud of the staff. I need to give kudos to the entire executive leadership team, because the coordination that they had to do to be able to get it all working, along with Angie and the IT support, I think we really did. We knocked it out of the park with everything that we had to do. So just really proud of that. When we got done with that state board meeting, we had a little bit of a break and then needed to go to lead the President's Association meeting, which happened all that afternoon. That was about a 3-4 hour meeting as well. And that President's Association meeting, as you would guess right now, is just a lot of roundtable sharing. What's happening from a COVID? How are people dealing with the budget issues? How are people dealing with, you know, enrollment? We talked about our advocacy efforts and what we're currently doing to try not to have a state aid reduction. Also talking about new dollars that we want to ask for our students in the next budget that's coming up. But really, again, the time is really sharing. What is everybody seeing and kind of learning from one another? I very much shared with the state board, and I would share with you that this is really truly a time of collaboration that is occurring. We all very much know that even though it may not be happening at our institution, it definitely could be. And so just talking and hearing and getting other people's opinions on some things have been really helpful. So I would say right now our system is really strong. I'm really proud of that. I think all the presidents are really open to hearing and open to sharing, which makes us, again, stronger as a system. So that would end my report, but definitely members, I would love to answer anything for you.
Anybody have any questions? If not, Chuck, you're up with finance.
Okay, we've already handled our consent agenda items, so I'll move on to the treasurer's report. On page 13, you've got the budget modifications made for the months of July and August. There's a lot of them because we're playing a little catch up there. Revenue changes amount to $762 or almost $763,000. Expense changes amount to a little over $803,000. So there's a net impact of a minus $40,000 to the fund balance. If you look at the next page, you'll see the current budget as modified by those budget modifications. So very little net impact on the budgeted ending fund equity. Moving to current actuals for the year, page 15. As you recall from years past, both revenues and expenditures tend to be a little lumpy. And right now the expenditures are a little bit bigger lumps than the revenues. So we've eaten into our fund equity a little bit from the actual year-to-date standpoint, $728,000 of expenditures exceeding revenues for Fund 1. We've recognized 13.6% of our revenue for the total of all funds and 14% of our expenditures. On the balance sheet, the major item that we talk about here is the balance of cash and investments. We've got a balance of $22.9 million, which is about 80% of our maximum back in 2017, February 2017, I believe. If Greg is in the room there, Greg, do you have anything you'd like to add in terms of the financials?
My one comment, Chuck, would be that if you are looking at our actuals, it shows that we're about 17.7% spent, and if you take 2 months of the 12 months, that's 16.67. So while we may be lumpy, overall, we're still really good in line with where we should be if you're looking at it from a month-to-month basis.
Yep, very good. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, we have the resolution in Exhibit F for the sale of $1 million general obligation promissory notes. And I see that John Meehan is with us. John, could you give us some details on the sale of those bonds?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Hopefully, you have access to our final pricing book, which is a 8-page document that just walks through the sale. As I'm sure you remember, at a previous board meeting, you authorized the issuance of $1 million of general obligation promissory notes. The notes themselves are going to be dated October 13th. That's when the funds will be delivered to the college. The maturity is March 1, 2022 through 24. March 1 is when you pay all your existing principal payments, so we're keeping in line with that. And this is, which I'll get to, but it's an overall blending of a $5.5 million authority for your fiscal year financing plan, but we had to split it into 2 different issues because of state statutory limitations. As far as the interest payment, interest begins March 1 of 2021. So that also ties with March and September for your existing debt. Because it's so short, thank you, as far as the amortization, the notes are non-callable. With payments between 22 and 24, they're non-callable. The rating was confirmed at a AA1. Good discussion with the rating agencies. They understand the environment that we're all working under, and so that was confirmed, which is always good news. The true interest cost for the notes is at 0.72%. So, though the coupon rates, is what the buyers want, is the buyers want coupon protection should they want to enter the secondary market and sell these. Though the coupon rates are at 3%, the actual true interest cost is 0.72 because the buyers provide premium that pays for the cost of issuance, as well as additional funds which are deposited to your debt service account. In actual practice, you will have enough funds from premiums to pay your 21 calendar year interest payments. So 0.72, it just reflects that continued low interest rate environment, which we're all under. Next page. As far as how this plan works in with the 5.5 overall borrowing, you'll see on the left side of the page, we have when the levy is set and when the payments are due. And once again, I caution that payments for debt service are always on a calendar year basis. Payments for operations are done on a fiscal year basis as part of a budgetary process. But for debt service in Wisconsin, you're required to levy as if it's a calendar year basis. So on the left side of the page, we have all the existing payments. We have the 2020A issue. We did so long ago back in June, and that was for $4.5 million. And then right in the middle, we have the $1 million issue, which, as I said, is that 3% rate. It blends together that you look at the existing and new debt service. We don't do it in a vacuum. We always look at what future issues may or may not take place, nothing you're committing to today. But we talk about total future financings. We say, what if you were to issue debt of $5.5 million annually for the rest of our lives? How would it flow into the overall debt structure? When you combine all the debt service, you can see the debt service levy structure that we're heading to is to keep the debt service levy below $7 million and to get to a point where we'll really have it leveled out going off into the future. You will have flexibility, so sure projects change, you'll have flexibility. Sure, should interest costs go up. So the overall plan takes a look at what you needed for the 2021 years and what you may be undertaking for future years, and how does the overall plan work out. So I think the structure nicely puts you in a place going forward. At the very back of the report is the Moody's credit report itself. My only comment would be they had just talked to the district back in June. So they issue what they call a press release. It's a reduced report because it's not as in-depth as the report we did a few months ago. Part of it is they say, we don't have your audit yet. We don't have your final valuations yet. There's information that we don't have. So for right now, they provide a press release. It's perfect. It's a AA1. Good news, and worked nicely as far as the sale. I would also mention, just sort of an interesting side comment, that because of the short nature of some of the maturities, we actually had a municipality in Wisconsin bought some of the debt. And I think that that, as well as banks, but I think an investment by a municipality is because they saw the nature of the credit, knowing that you're AA1, a strong credit, and the short amortization, and they were able to put some of their own money to work, which was just interesting to see, different buyers show up. What I just covered now has been included in the resolution prepared by your bond counsel, Quarles and Brady, for your consideration this evening. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
John, I've got a question on page 3. In the combined debt service, less funds applied column, there are a couple of notes above with an arrow and circles on 6,213,377, and also circled is 6,595,115, and above it's saying we've got a projected levy of 6,604,220. Can you explain the difference between the projected levy of 6,604,220 and the 6,595,115?
I'll be happy to. The 6,604,000 was a number that has been put in your budget, which was considered as part, by this past May at the public hearings, etc. The 6,595,000 is what the actual cost is. Okay, so we're going to need to raise less through debt service then, or? Yeah, I mean, you could say, well, why don't we just have the debt service levy be at 6,596,000? You can certainly do that. I think we're talking about $10,000 on an overall $6 million levy. It's not a significant number. I think the more significance is that you had projected to be at 6,604,000 in May when you were setting your budget. And now that we have the final interest rates, which we didn't have either the 2020A or the 2020B sold at that time, we're actually coming in a little bit lower than that. Yep, that's nice. Easy for me to say, I'd say leave it alone. Okay. I'd say leave it at 6,604. Yep, very good. Thank you. Any other questions for John?
Yeah, based on what the Fed is doing and has announced, where do you see these rates? I mean, I would never have guessed that they would be where they're at. I mean, are we at the bottom?
I think we're pretty darn low. We're not at the bottom. We're talking about little gradations. I don't look at the Fed so much as I look at November 3rd. That's not a political comment. It's reality is that as we get closer to November, the market will be more cautious. I think what you're going to see is a run-up of debt issues in October, people trying to beat the clock, because, what happens November 3rd, and then what happens to tax policies going forward? Is there a change in the Senate, change in the House, change in the presidency? What's the new plan? People don't know. So we're pretty darn low, and I think the question going forward will be the outcome of the election and any changes to tax policy, and what does that mean?
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, then,
If not, we need a motion on a roll call.
I'd make the motion to approve resolution in Exhibit F.
I'll second, this is Betty.
Any questions? If not, roll call, please, Angie.
Place and what we want for the future. We've made the necessary changes, and today we are starting a new chapter. The changes following an investigation.
Robert Beaver.
The generalist was not part of that review. 3 of the show's top producers, more veterans fired. Now, for a long time, DJ
Angie, we got somebody walking all over us here.
Producer.
Thank you.
Robert Beaver,
Yes.
Betty Brusky Malik,
Yes.
Kristen Kraft,
Yes.
Craig Gerlach,
Yes.
Ben Herter,
Yes.
Richard Murden,
Yes.
Sam Miller,
Yes.
Charles Spargo.
Yes.
Okay, Chuck, you're up again.
Thank you,
very
John.
much.
Thank you,
Have a good
John.
night.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda for the Finance and Infrastructure Committee is the Cosmo remodel project. We got additional information today about that. Is Matt, if Matt's available, maybe he could speak to the bid results. Looks like you're muted, Matt.
Yep,
There you
it took
go.
a while to come off. Yes, Chuck, we actually had quite a bit of interest in the project. As you can see, we had 6 bidders submit bids with quite the range. The winning bidder was Eagle Construction with a bid of $407,800. That's a pretty good number. It was a competitive market. There was a lot of interest from the bidders that were asking for plans. And their bid numbers came in lower actually than I had expected, which is obviously good for us. So, yeah,
We've worked with Eagle before, and you're happy with their performance?
Yes. Yep, we've done several projects with Eagle. Just about everybody on this list, and Eagle's always done right by us. So, I would recommend awarding to them.
Very
They're
good.
they're a local firm.
Correct. Yep, Wisconsin Rapids, actually.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
This is Chris, I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Robert Beaver,
Yes.
Betty Brusky Malik,
Yes.
Kristen Kraft,
Yes.
Craig Gerlach,
Yes.
Herter,
Yes.
Richard Murden,
Yes.
Sam Miller,
Yes.
Charles Spargo.
Yes.
Okay, Chuck, you're up again.
Very good. Thank you, Matt. Okay, next, we have several informational items. And Greg, maybe you could walk us through that, please.
Certainly, thank you, Chuck. The first informational item would be our estimated property values and tax rates. So our property values for FY, or for our upcoming tax levy year, we have not yet received our valuations for the counties or the municipalities. However, we have received our net new construction number. Our net new construction number is approximately up 1.5% or additional $77,000 over what we budgeted for in FY21. So that is good news to us. What that does to the mill rate, we're not too sure yet because of the estimation or the valuation's not in yet. And they are due out from the Department of Revenue on September 30th at the latest. Any questions on property values or tax rates? If not, our independent audit for FY20, they finished up their in-house work last Friday, At that time, they had provided myself and our controller, Brenda Swan, information that there are no findings currently on their paperwork that they have accomplished, which is great to hear. It's always a good thing. We will be looking at finishing up their additional items by September 30th of this month. And then they'll be putting together financial statements, and due to timing, we will come to the board in December for the presentation to the board for our FY20 year end. Any questions on the status of our independent audit? Okay, thank you. Outcomes-based funding, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So we recently received the 2019-2020 report of outcomes-based funding, and I'll be pulling it up on the screen in a couple seconds here. This is for the time frame of academic years 2017 through 2019. We'll wait for us to catch up with our well, I'll just continue on right now. So for the Mid-State Title Colleges received state aid of approximately $15.3 million, made up of property tax relief aid, 10.7 million, or about 69.5%. Our general purpose revenue of 2.1 million, or about 13.9% of all of our state aid. Outcomes-based funding is 1.3 million, or 7.8% of all state aids. We have grants of approximately $1 million from the state level at 6.7%, and other items such as Wisconsin GI personal property aid, aid in lieu of, is about $300,000 or $0.3 million. Outcomes-based funding started in 2014 and 15. And if you look at us, we are ranked 12th overall for aid received, or 4.22%. And if you look at our general purpose revenue, we received 3.24. So that shows that we are performing better on our outcomes-based funding than we would if we were just under this old formula of just general purpose revenue, which is a great thing for Mid-State. The criteria for outcomes-based funding, you can see on the screen. Please remember that we select 7 of the 10 criteria, and that they're using a 3-year rolling average. So the oldest year rolls off and the new year comes on. So this year, 16 rolled off and 19 came in for academic years. And we are just finishing our FY20 year, and our 20 academic year. So those numbers are not made up into these criteria that we're selecting. Some of the successes that are with the WTCS outcomes-based funding are on the screen. If you look at number 2, number of programs with technical skills attainment has expanded over 43% over the last few years. Dual enrollments, our dual credit, is up 45% in that time frame. So those are some great increases of how outcomes-based funding is helping out the members of our communities. We'll look at the first outcomes-based funding item, which is job placement criteria. And if you look at that, Mid-State is ranked 7th out of the 11, and we received about $225,000, $226,000 of funds there. 84.3% of Mid-State students were employed in a related field, and our overall job placement from Mid-State students is 93%. And if you look on the screen, you'll see our dashboard. For the preliminary number for 1920, the year we just finished up, is at 88% for being in a related field. So that's up over 3.7% from where we're currently at on the report that's provided by the state. The next outcomes-based funding criteria is number 2, high demand fields. Again, we ranked 11 out of 12 on that one, received about $117,000. And that's based on graduates working in the top 50 occupations in Wisconsin. And this definitely supports our process and program and product development. The work that individuals are doing with our new programs coming on board. Outcomes-based funding number 3 is industry validated curriculum. We ranked 11 out of 13 that is selected. Received about $168,000. And that's based on the number of active degrees and certificate programs with employer advisory committees. So are the companies that we are supplying students to helping us understand what the curriculum needed is for them, and that they receive the skills needed to work in our communities. Number 4, the outcomes-based funding adult basic education, our ABE transition. We did not select that criteria. Again, looking at the 3-year rolling average, will this be one that we look at in the future? That will be something we have to decide as we look more at the criteria and how we rank within the other OBF criterias. Outcomes-based funding number 5 is ABE services and success. We ranked 11 out of 12 on this one, receiving about $133,000, $134,000. And that is defined by demonstrating educational gains on standardized tests. Outcomes-based funding dual enrollment. We did not select this criteria. However, I am showing our dashboard. Number 6, please. I am showing the dashboard, and you'll see that the 16-17 year that is currently in the rolling average, when that drops off, that might be an item that we look at selecting, because we have had some significant improvements in that area for dual enrollment. And you can see how it measures down below.
Greg, I think that's a really good point, because I think that in many of these columns, once we drop off 16, 17, we definitely, our criteria, what we pick may be different. Absolutely. So I'm glad that you're highlighting that. Going to number 7, workforce training. We did not select that item this year. And you can see what it measures down below. OBF number 8 is collaboration. We ranked 11 out of 50. Almost every college selected this item, and we received $183,000, of which we do participate in all the items listed on the screen. Plus, we have other collaborations. We can use our Willow Consortium as another example of collaboration.
Okay, is there anything else or any questions?
We still have 2 more, Bob, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Number 9 is special populations. Here you can see we're ranked 9 out of 14, so we do very well in special populations. Students of color, Pell Grants, military veterans, incarcerated individuals, dislocated workers, and persons with disabilities. I believe the military veterans is a very high number for us, which helps us out in this area. And the last one, outcomes-based funding number 10 is credit for prior learning. We ranked 7 out of 11 on this one, received about $212,000. And that is for awarding credits to individuals for work or for educational experiences that were not done through the college, but they received them on the job. So to help us kind of remember, there was a sentence that was shared with us back a couple of years ago. Chad got a job in Wisconsin. I'll turn it over to Shelley for additional comments.
Thank you. It's just really important that really our employees and us never forget these criteria, because it does help guide the decisions we've made. And like I had interjected before, we need to really have that 16, 17 year fall off. So then when you think of all the efforts, even when you think of, let's say, the workforce category, we really did not have workforce going in 16, 17. So even ABE, we were #1 in the state this year, but even with having a lagging year in 16, 17, it would not be good to choose that category. So how you remember this is CHAD, C-H-A-D, collaboration, high demand, ABE services, dual credit. GOT is just a word that helps us remember all of the criteria. The A is the second part of ABE. So adult basic ed is really big. It's not only counting what we actually serve in services, but the transition of do they come to post-secondary education after they complete with us an adult basic ed. The job, J-O-B, that's just, again, reminder of job placement being so important. In is just like GOT, it just goes ahead and helps us make the sentence. And then WISC is workforce training, industry validated credentials, special POPs, and credit for prior learning. So just know that the administrators here, we very much remember Chad got a job in Wisconsin, and then helps us remember our 10 criteria. So when Deb is developing a new program, we say, is that a high demand program? If it's not a high demand program in the state, we really have to ask ourselves, do we want to invest in that? Maybe it's a high demand program though in the district, and we would need to do that. Dual credit definitely has to be an area that we continue to do well in. Workforce training, I'm excited to get in the game with that. All of the work we do with our short-term credentials with industry validated, that will help us. And again, credit for prior learning, we're doing well. So it's just one thing that we keep a handle on, making sure we know all this criteria. So I appreciate, Greg, you kind of walking through exactly where we are, but keep in mind there's also some strategies of what you pick. If you are, picking a category that already has a lot of colleges, then you may not get as much money. So if there is something to say, you look at the numbers, but then you pick the categories that are best for your school. But I think if there's one thing I want you to remember is maybe two things. One, that as a college, we're trying to situate ourselves to get the most funding we can to really serve our communities. And number two, I loved what you said, Greg. We are actually bringing in more money as a college since outcome-based funding started than when we did not have it. So that was a decision that was made in the legislature, and it has helped us as a college. So I think because we perform well. Thank you.
That just about concludes the Finance and Infrastructure Committee, but I'd like to thank Greg for once again stepping up during the loss of our VP of Finance. He's done this before. Really appreciate the extra effort that he's putting forth, helping cover in this additional time of need. Thank you very much, Greg.
You're welcome.
That concludes the Finance and Infrastructure Committee report.
Okay, Academic Student Services, Betty?
Yep, and I think we're going to turn that over, Betty, right? I believe right to Deb and Mandy to go into the reports.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I think I will start. Twice a year, I provide you with a list of our current advisory committee members. And you should have received that today in your packet. It's a spreadsheet that lists all of the members that belong to advisory committee programs or committees in the School of Business and Technology, the School of Health, and the School of Protective and Human Services. So as you review these documents, you pay attention to the each program, the members currently supporting the program, looking at their name, their business, their address, and then their member status. And I've highlighted those that are new or who have renewed their membership in green. So you can take a look at that. So when I take a look at these documents for the membership, I always want to make sure that we're adequately representing the district. In other words, we have members representing the program from across the district. And we still continue to add members in our Adams communities. We also want to make sure that as much as we can that we have diversity in gender, diversity in race. And you'll also notice that sometimes we'll have an advisory committee that serves a unique program. And in that case, many times we'll have more of a state or regional reach in terms of our advisory committee members. So we continue to recruit members to make sure that they're active and they're relevant in their fields. So we're continuing to do that. The other piece that I wanted to mention too is that if you take a look at the first column, which is the term date, you will probably notice that there are some advisory committee members whose membership would have expired in spring of 2019. And I just wanted to share with you that because of COVID, the WTCS did come out and say that we could have virtual advisory committee members, or we could actually cancel our advisory committee meetings in the spring. And so you will see some that are outdated. They're expired. Our plan is to meet with them at the next advisory committee and really ask if they're still continuing to be interested in serving on those advisory committee members, and then we will renew them. So I thought that you would probably notice that we had some expired, and that just really is because of the situation in spring with COVID. And particularly in the School of Health, there were reports that some of those advisory committee members were working from home, or they were actually furloughed and we couldn't reach them. So again, we will certainly make an effort at the next advisory committee to make sure that they are all updated. So in the spring, January, February, I will share the advisory committee membership list from the remaining schools. So are there any questions regarding those lists? Okay, then I think I'll turn it over to Mandy.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Mhm.
Let me share my screen here for everyone. Okay, so can you see my screen? Okay, and I'm assuming it says 2019-2020 enrollment report. So, okay. So I want to share with you where we're at for where we ended kind of 2019-2020. And I'll start with our end of year, year-end student headcount. This, and just for all of this data, just know that it's been submitted to client reporting at the WTCS office. Client is closed, but they are still doing a little bit of cleanup. And so, you know, things may change by like a number or two every now and then, but there shouldn't be too many changes. The final information will come forward in the dashboard next month. So if we take a look at our student headcount, we ended the year down about 2.4% in headcount. If we look back at right before the pandemic started, at the beginning of March, we were up 14% in headcount, which is, you know, was just really great to see. And, you know, and then the pandemic really had a big impact on two main areas of the college for last year. And the two areas where we kind of saw the largest declines were continuing education and vocational adult classes. Not surprising, since much of that was scheduled to be hands-on. And I know Bobby will talk a little bit more about that impact in her report later. So that's what we're seeing from a headcount perspective. If we take a look at, and just another note about this, if we were looking pre-pandemic about all of this, and would have been at about 14 or even 5% up, or however that year would have ended without COVID, it would have been our fourth consecutive year of a headcount increase, which would have been really great to see as a college. But we'll get back there. And so taking a look at then our FTE. Overall, we ended the year about 2.2% down in FTE. So back in March, again, pre-COVID, we were up about 1.6% in FTE, and we really felt we were on our way to meeting our goal of a 1% increase. compared to the other WTCS colleges and how they ended the year, we're about in the middle, 7th, and within the 16 colleges. So really, that's been anytime we can be better than 12th is a good thing. So 7th, right in the middle, isn't a terrible place to be. So when we take a look at FTE by school, our advanced manufacturing and engineering school they did end up being down about 16%. Our business and technology was down 0.3%, so it really looks flat there. And then our general education and learning resources was down 1.1%. School of Health down 7.6%. And protective and human services was down 2.3%. Where we had some gains this last year was transportation, ag, natural resources, and construction, where we were up 10.9%, so almost 11%, which was great to see with them. A little bit of information by program here for you. I won't read each program to you, but you can see the column of where we had notable increases in FTE, and then the column of some programs that had some notable decreases in FTE. And what I categorize as notable is increases of at least 5 FTE and a 10% increase, and then decreases the same thing, decreases of at least 5 FTE and 10%. That's really to take into consideration the size of the programs as well. And then just a little bit of information about our student demographics over the last year. And the gender, when we look at that, 60% female, 40% male, same as the year before. So no change there. Age, about 56% of our students are below age 25. And our average age is 26, which is actually, and that's for technical diploma and associate degree students, that's actually up 1 year from the year before. And where our students live, the home district of our program students, 77% of them live in the Mid-State District, and 23% come from out of the district, and that is exactly the same as the year before. And then finally, part-time and full-time enrollment, and this is one we kind of watch regularly. And so 73% of our students for the fall semester last year, really we kind of have to look at it semester by semester, but 73% attended part-time and 27% attended full-time. The year before, it was 70-30. So a little bit of a change there, but not too significant. And then finally, I just wanted to share a little bit of information about kind of where we're at currently with enrollment for the 2020-2021 year. Kind of early information is showing us to be down about 6.25%. Enrollment of continuing students is down less than our new student enrollment. And one really good thing is that our enrollment in online classes is up significantly compared to last year. We're up 37% there. So while we would really prefer to be up in overall FTE, we've made a lot of progress since enrollment opened last April, where we were initially down nearly 30% at that time. So really a lot of work by the team here at Mid-State and the staff on really focusing and making this a priority. And we're doing much better, but we continue to make it a priority. When we look at what we're hearing from the other WTCS colleges for this year so far, you know, we're just taking what they're saying, and no one's reporting to be up right now since the fall semester started. So we're kind of right in the middle of where everybody is. Any questions at all?
What is that range of where everybody is?
You know, it's ranging really to be, I believe one of the highest numbers I heard was about 12% down. And then there was one college that's about flat. Any other questions?
If not, thank you.
Thank you.
We're up. Justin, you're up with Human Resources and External Relations.
All right, thank you, Bob. Two informational items tonight. The first being legal representation with Karen. She's with us, right?
Okay, let me pull myself up here. I did want to inform you that we have moved our primary legal counsel from Strang, Pattison, Renning, Lewis, and Lacey. Many of you know Kirk Strang. He is also the counsel for the District Boards Association. It's not that we're not working with Kirk or his firm. It's just we've moved our primary legal counsel to Boardman and Clark. And some of you may know Mike Julka from Boardman and Clark. He headed their education group for many, many years. And Mike is working towards retirement. He's still there, but he's handed over the reins of chairing that group to Doug Whitty, who is also a fine attorney. One of our considerations is the broad range of specialties that Boardman and Clark has. So you may know, those of you from the Point area may know Tess O'Brien. Tess O'Brien is an attorney from Point who now lives in Madison. She is a 504 expert. 504 is the students with disabilities, how we handle students with disabilities, is a national expert on 504 issues. They have benefit people that deal with nothing but benefits in education and Title IX, and a lot of depth in that firm. So we still, I like to keep a relationship with several firms. So if you were around when the college was with Michael Best, we do still use Luis Arroyo from Michael Best for our student issues. And like I said, we will continue to use Kirk for certain issues. And but we'll be moved to Boardman and Clark for our primary legal counsel. Questions on that?
I've worked with Boardman and Clark back in the day when they were Lathrop.
Yeah, it's a fine group. They're not, they're a good group. All right.
Thank you. Next will be Bobby with FY20 Workforce and Economic Development.
Yes, I'd like to welcome two members of the Workforce and Economic Development Division to be present for our annual report. So I have Craig Bernstein with us. He's the manager of Workforce Development, and also Ashley Borchardt. So at this time, if they could enable their cameras for the presentation, you can get a good look at them as well. And also I want to introduce Ashley. Ashley started as our Workforce and Economic Development Assistant, and she's taking the place of Maggie Coakley, who retired in August. Welcome her to our team. I also wanted to preface the report before Angie pulls it up for me with just how privileged I feel to work with this group. They're really creative, and they have such a strong professional and business acumen that really bodes well for our college, and really expecting big things out of this division as we move forward. So with that, Angie, if you're able to pull up the document for me, that would be great. But in your packets, you should have received a document that looks just like this. And this is our fiscal year 20 Workforce and Economic Development Report. Just a couple high-level details. This division really oversees a number of disciplines or a number of areas: contract training, facility rentals or facility use, continuing education, and grants. So we have a small team that handles many different areas here. Just as in the executive summary that I shared with you, we were really doing really great things. Prior to kind of the COVID slowdown, which we started receiving some, maybe some anticipation of some issues early in March. And by March 17th, of course, the pandemic was here and we made some changes here at the college. But we had about 2/3 of our year under our belt at that point. And we kind of drew a line in the sand and we looked at our outcomes and we were at 86% of our goals. So we knew that we were on pace to have a stellar year. However, like many businesses and folks, things change, right? But I wanted to give you just a little bit of flavor for each little area. Contract training, when we ended the year for fiscal 20, you know, we had a $350,000 revenue goal and we were at $300,537 at roughly 2/3 of our year. And what's even more impressive is that was 72 unique contracts that serve 39 businesses. And why that's important is that shows that we have created some loyalty and some business partners really liking what we're doing and our quality and some of the things that we're offering. So multiple, many businesses had multiple experiences with us through contract training. We had some Watt grant money that we had received, and as of March, we had dispersed or had used about $75,285 to help offset some of our stakeholders and their training costs. So that was done. We're grateful that the WTCS said, hey, you can finish off the year and we're going to extend it till the end of November of 2020. So right now we are working away at using that $77,000 left in our Watt grant. Currently, I think we have three trainings that are going on, and we've got a big one that's starting next month as well. So, so training really has picked up for us again. One of the things that we feel very proud about and one of our large accomplishments was really working with Sand Valley Gulf Resort and forming that relationship. We actually assisted them in writing for the Fast Forward grant from DWD, and that allowed them to really create what they're calling the Sand Valley Culinary Institute. The grant that they received was $66,880, and that's to train a couple of cohorts where we actually bring our faculty down and do some training, and that includes their books and their tuition and that whole deal. One cohort is already done, and we're starting a second cohort in February. That'll go from February 2021 to April. You saw in the flyer that we had listed a picture of one of the proud students showing a breakfast. Yeah, there he is, a breakfast dish that he had made. The other piece is facility use. That's a contract service that we provide as well. We had 79 contracts last year, which means we served nonprofit, for-profit, governmental, and educational institutions really across the board. We had a number of, for paid contracts, 31,000 worth, and then obviously some in-kind value. Our largest facility use contract was with an educational partner called Educate Wisconsin, and they actually came to our Stevens Point campus and had classes there on Friday evenings and all day Saturday, and it was for teacher certification and administrator certification courses. So very much aligned with our missions here in education. So sadly, they're still doing online for their folks, but we hope to have them back next semester. And then finally, I think when we think about facility rental, facility use, one of the big things that we've done is provide service to our community by hosting the dislocated worker meetings for Donaldson and Verso. So that has been something that we've taken a lot of pride in. It has been a very challenging time for us in light of COVID and making sure that we follow all of our harm reduction protocol. But at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do, and we're doing it safely. So, so that's good. A little touch on the continuing education. Just to kind of share with you that we had 94 unique continuing ed course titles, and it is our goal to try to bring them across the district. So whenever we can, we try to offer the same course in each of the locations. Sometimes it's not possible, but in many cases it is. These titles that we put out, basically they were inside our building and as well as outside, literally outside. Some of the courses we offered were outside, adventure type things. We also popped up in ODC, at Nakusa High School, at the fire stations. So we've really been kind of going and putting CE courses out where we're offered space and where the space is relevant to what we're doing. We served about 2,146 individuals between the protective services coursework, CPR, first aid, motorcycle rider, which contributed about 32 FTE through Con Ed. You know, let me just go back and share with you when we talked about contract training, because we had a really good number there too. We upskilled 1,027 incumbent workers. So between that 1,000 and another 2,100 people in continuing ed, over 3,000 people, you know, we really touched in some level of professional development. Finally, when in the beginning of March, when we kind of slowed down for continuing ed and our services were kind of suspended, we use that time to really move from a face-to-face to a virtual environment with some of our continuing ed courses. And I think you will be surprised and hopefully very happy to see some of the neat courses that we just put out. Angie has sent you the link to our continuing ed, or maybe it was a PDF, our new flyer that went out. So take a look through that, because it's really creative, offering a wide variety of courses. We're sticking with the Something for Everyone brand, where we have courses and opportunities that are no charge to some that may have a smaller charge due to the materials that are required. I'm just going to touch briefly on grants, because we've talked about grants through our budget process, and basically we managed about $1.5 million worth of grants last year in just WTCS grant dollars alone. We were awarded nearly $1.2 million for next year. So we're going to keep on the business of being good stewards of the grant money. And you can see some of the facts or some of the stats right under that in the grant section. Finally, the key metrics is part of our dashboard. It's a part of the bigger dashboard, but it's something that Craig, Ashley, and I and the rest of the team are continually kind of watching to make sure that we're trending in the right direction. The final page of the document that you saw really lists some of the conferences that we delivered, some of the business training partners that were okay with us putting their name in print, as well as some of our continuing education courses that we offered. So that really concludes my report. Can open it up for any questions that you may have of our division at this time.
Anybody have any questions? If not, thanks, Bobby.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Committee of the Whole. And that's Shelley and Karen both presented some policies that we'll need to review and see if we want to make suggest any changes. And then he'll be back to vote on later. The only one that I heard was Rick asked about some of the pretty negative stuff that was in the policies, and I don't know how much they can correct that or not correct it, but that was kind of the comment around the policy review thing. This is I believe, a quarterly review of part of our policy. Discussion and action, fall semester executive leadership team.
Yes, thank you, Bob. We will start with Deb, and again, executive team, just kind of those brief elements to share regarding how we have adjusted and what we've done to be ready for our fall semester. So Deb, coming to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's hard to believe that we started our 5th week of the fall semester today. So I am seeing students adjusting to all the protocols that we put in place to make sure that they are learning in a safe and healthy environment. And we've heard many comments from students who said, I'm so glad to be back on campus. Thank you for everything that you're doing in order for us to come back to class. A few months ago, I talked to you about what we've done for fall. And just to recap, we're offering nearly 150 online courses That's 40 more online than last fall. 59% of our classes that have an in-person component can be completed entirely from home using web conferencing tools. So even though we've scheduled it with some in-person components, students, if they choose, can attend from home. And then an additional 25% of those in-person classes can be completed partially. So there's still some times when they have to come to class, but for some of that time, they can actually complete that from home. So therefore, we have 84% of our in-person classes can be partially or completely attended from home using web conferencing tools. And this has become really an even more important option for students. If they're working, they have life commitments, or as we're seeing now, if they need to quarantine or if they become ill, they can still continue their classes. And that really was our goal, to provide uninterrupted education. I've asked our academic leaders to give me a sense for how many students are taking advantage of attending from home, and that varies by class, certainly. But there are some areas when at least a quarter of the students are taking advantage of that and participating in class from home. And they've also reported that that number has increased in the past week or two. We are working very closely with the full executive team and all of the areas of the college, student services, the advising team, to make sure we're addressing student need, the IT team, to make sure that they have the technology and support, and facilities certainly to make sure that the classrooms are cleaned between classes. And that's definitely a new concern or a new step that we have to do this fall. So at this time, the faculty are continuing to front load their hands-on portion of their classes, just in the event that we'd have to move to virtual instruction later in the semester. We're also updating our midterm and our winterm and spring classes to make sure that we're offering enough online, or adding more hybrid and blended, and also offering that option to attend virtually from home whenever possible. We're hearing from students that they really are noticing the flexibility from the faculty, and our faculty are working very hard to keep the students engaged, to be connecting to both students who are showing up in class as well as those that are participating from home. And I'm really proud of them, and I'm confident in our plan. And again, I thank you to all the teams across the college, because without their support and help, we would not be able to really implement the instructional plans that we designed. So I'll turn it over to Mandy, who will share with us what they're doing in student services.
Yes, thanks, Deb. So I want to touch on really two aspects of this, kind of the support services that we've been offering, and the CARES funding, student emergency CARES funding that we've been able to help students with as well. So at the beginning of August, the SSIC and bookstore hours were expanded to be 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we saw some pretty significant increases in walk-in traffic in August. And now that's dropped back down as students have settled in to their classes, either online or in person. And that's what we anticipated, and our hours are currently at 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then student or by appointment after 5 p.m. as well. For our bookstore, for the big August timeframe in which we sell books, we modified our service to provide a curbside pickup option and also free shipping for online orders to kind of decrease traffic and offer more options for students to get their books. For advising, counseling, financial aid, disability services, student life, our link, they're all offering right now a mix of in-person and virtual services and activities. Virtual services have been going really well, and the majority of our students continue to access services in this way. For advising, about 1/3 of our appointments are in person, and about two thirds are virtual. A little bit about our CARES funding for the student emergency grants. The total that we received back in the spring semester was $764,006. We had set aside about $50,000 for summer and $100,000 for fall, because we had anticipated that that need would continue. As of the end of August, all of those funds have been depleted. The application for the fall semester was made live for students to apply the first Wednesday of classes at 9 a.m. And we ran out of funds by 9:23. So just over 20 minutes. We continue to work with students to find alternative resources, either through the state emergency grant fund or the foundation, and also helping them find community resources. So overall, for the spring, summer, and fall semesters, 657 unduplicated students received these funds. And overall, we received 1,513 applications. So the need is definitely there. And we just continue to work to help them to find resources. Any questions? Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Matt, who will talk about facilities.
I will. Sorry, my mute button's a little slow to come off. Not surprisingly, the lead up to the fall semester, this fall semester in particular, was presented many unique challenges and a lot of frequent changes as different guidance came along. They changed how we set up the campus and how we operated. In preparation for the fall semester, facilities in collaboration with academics and student services socially distanced each classroom and student service space. This required a lot of moving of tables and chairs, and some of which had to be completely removed from classrooms and stored on each campus. Some student service offices actually had to be completely relocated in order to provide room and social distancing between the staff and students. In addition to socially distancing the college, plexiglass dividers were installed throughout the college at all instructor workstations and classrooms and anywhere Midstate staff interacts with the public. Floor decals were placed throughout hallways at instructor workstations and counters where people may gather in order to demonstrate and encourage social distancing. To meet the additional cleaning and disinfecting needs, we added more facility staff at each campus utilizing CARES funding. 2 additional custodians were added to the Marshfield, Stevens Point, and Wisconsin Rapids campus, and 1 additional custodian was added to Adams. This gives us the needed personnel hours to meet the additional cleaning need as well as redundancy for any illness or planned time off of facility staff. In addition to all this, we created a flip card system, and we also created a schedule of hourly rounds and specific room assignments. Certain rooms have only 10 minutes from the time that one class ends and another class begins. Academics created a spreadsheet for us of these days and times when these classes were, and facilities has used that to assign these rooms to specific custodians on the days and times where those short changeovers occur. In addition to this room assignment schedule, specific facility staff are assigned rounds each hour to walk the extent of each campus to disinfect public surfaces and to clean and disinfect rooms where the flip card indicates that a room has been used. To ensure the college is able to meet the cleaning and disinfecting need, the inventory of cleaning and disinfecting supplies was increased and is being maintained at 4 times or more its usual capacity. This is necessary to accommodate the increased usage by facilities, students, and staff, and so that we are able to absorb any industry delays or shortages. In addition to increasing our inventory supply, certain specialized equipment more geared toward disinfecting surfaces and equipment was purchased. An example of one are our cleaning chemical foggers. These are sprayers that atomize and electrically charge liquid disinfectants to create more uniform coverage, including the vertical and even bottom surfaces of tables and other surfaces. With 4 weeks of the semester completed, the plans and processes implemented by the college are working very well. Cleaning and disinfecting are happening continuously, and communication between facilities, academics, and student service is ongoing in order to quickly adapt to any necessary changes and to improve processes as opportunities to do so are found. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brad Russell to discuss technology.
All right, thank you, Matt. Information technology performed a multitude of items to ensure that technology was available for the start of the fall semester for our students and employees. Some of the items that were accomplished were we procured, imaged, and deployed 186 laptops for students to check out from each campus. This was a collaborative effort with student services, the link, and others to help distribute them. And this is in addition to the normal replacement cycle that we perform each summer of our desktops and laptop computers. We also purchased and prepped and configured 4 carts and switches for the above mentioned laptops. We procured and installed 82 webcams into classrooms. We also purchased 80 webcams for students to check out from each of our campus locations for use at home. We procured, configured, and distributed 175 lapel microphones to faculty. Also, we procured and set up 4 movable monitors and sign-up units. That's our gold standard technology that we have implemented to be used temporarily in classrooms that historically have not had technology or locations, such as the gymnasium and other classrooms like the renewable energy location, T162. Additionally, we installed 4 outdoor access points at each of 3 campuses, Wisconsin Rapids, Marshfield, and Stevens Point. And we installed 2 access points at the Adams campus for a total of 14 access points that were installed and configured to allow outdoor Wi-Fi access for our employees and students. Also, Cisco Jabber soft phone solution was procured, configured, and rolled out to each remote employee needing it. This equated to 241 profiles that were created and configured and deployed for employees. And lastly, working with others such as facilities, we moved technology in multiple offices to other locations to accommodate social distancing. Any questions? All right, and with that, I'll turn it over to Karen for an update from Human Resources.
So the beginning of the fall semester for us always kicks off with in-service. And if you remember our last board meeting, that was in-service day. We had done our first virtual in-service that day, and then had the board meeting that evening. So I told you about in-service, but now we have the feedback on what the employees thought about that virtual in-service. And we have just a smidge over a 95% satisfaction overall satisfaction rating with that virtual in-service. One of the new questions we asked on the survey was, did this virtual format work for you? And we got 114 yeses and 1 no. So that was really a referendum on the fact that they liked that virtual format. So something we can keep in mind in the future. We don't want to do all of our in-services that way, but we may be able to do every other one or something like that and keep it virtual. From an employee standpoint, we have people who need to be out quarantining because their child was exposed at work or at school, or people who need to be out because their daycare is closed. What we have really tried to do is keep everyone whole. So when they cannot be on campus, we provide them work to do from home. And give them the ability to do that so that they're not having to dig into any of their sick time or any of their paid time off. We just keep people working as best we can, as long as they're physically able to work. And we've been lucky to have that be the case. Other COVID issues. So we developed a system for people, students, and others to report COVID issues if they have symptoms, if they have to quarantine or whatever. We've developed that system. They fill out an electronic form. It comes to a few of us, but it's mostly FYI for others. And I will just take action on them and follow up and accordingly. But we found that the system is working. Every day I find that either a student tried to come back and they hadn't been released yet, and the system works. They are being referred back to me. So I think that, as Deb said, we're really confident in what we have going, and it's going well. Any questions on any of that?
Aaron, quick question.
Sure.
Does Midstate fall underneath the FFCRA program?
Yeah, we do. And, but we haven't had to use it yet because of the keeping people whole.
Okay.
So we've been lucky enough to find ways to have them do work when they're off.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, I will turn it over to Bobby.
Yep, I just wanted to touch briefly a little bit on the grant allocation and the funding to support kind of much of what you just heard about. Post-secondary education, like the K-12 districts, were provided grant allocations from different federal and state sources. Shelley spoke previously about the CARES Act institutional funding, which is different than the CARES Act student funding that Mandy just recently spoke about. She spoke about the strengthening institution program funding, the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, and all of those together fit into something that is called HERF, Higher Education Emergency Relief Funds. Midstate also received some small allocations from the Insurance Trust Fund and the District Mutual Insurance as of this time. So we have a number of different sources that can help us reimburse ourselves for some of the things that we're doing. Each funding source is very different though, and has different expenditure criteria and timelines. So to really ensure that the college is maximizing all of the funding opportunities, we developed a COVID funding team. College needs from all of the areas of academics and student services, facilities, technology, and even administration. We identified everything and prioritized that. And as expenditures are made, we have meetings and we slot these expenses into the most relevant funding source. And then we track them on a comprehensive tracking document. We have made one draw so far on the CARES institutional grant, and we're preparing for our first draw for the GEAR grant. That's the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Grant. We'll be doing that towards the end of September, and then we'll be doing a second one in October. That grant ends on November 1. So just kind of wanted to let you know kind of the process that we put in place. And just kind of as an awareness piece, like the other colleges in the WTCS, we do anticipate a gap in the amount of HERF and other funding available to cover the college needs associated with both virtual learning and all of the campus health and safety measures that were mandated. A request to use fund balance may be necessary for Midstate as well as some of the other colleges. The shortfall will become clearer as we go on through the semester and expenditures are made. Right now, there's so many variables with the pandemic, really speaking to the longevity of it. And do we need to put out more sections? What does spring semester look like? Can we get through fall semester whole without going totally virtual? So we will give another report out in November specific to the funding of all of the expenditures to go virtual. But that's kind of a little bit of a snippet of what I can share with you at this moment. Does anyone have any questions as far as kind of the funding?
Any questions? If not, what's next? If you're looking for something, we go to the executive session or closed session.
Yep, I think that's where we're going next, Bob. So I think that was everybody just wanting, again, you know what we're doing here.
I'll have a comment in closed session. The board needs to entertain a motion to convene the closed session pursuant to section 19.85 sub 1 sub B, the Wisconsin statute, to discuss labor relations matters. The board may take action in closed session. Following the closed session, the board will entertain a motion to convene to open session and then take any further action as necessary and appropriate. The board will thereafter entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved. This is Betty.
Second?
I'll second, Mr. Justin.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Robert Beaver,
Yes.
Patty Grisky-Mallett,
Yes.
Kristen Kress,
Yes.
Gerlach,
Yes.
Justin Herder,
Yes.
Richard Merton,
Yes.
Miller, Linnea Miller, Charles Spargo.
Frozen.
Yes.
Okay, we're in closed session. I see Karen's smiling face.
Bob, if we. Let us know, Mike, when you're ready. Oh, but I got the thumbs up. So go ahead, Bob. You can do the pleasure.
Okay. In closed session, we got a report about labor relations and there was no action taken, so we could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that. This is Justin.
Roll call?
Rick Merton,
Yes.
Craig Gerlach,
Yes.
Kristen Krass,
Yes.
Bob Beaver,
Yes.
Linnea Miller,
Yes.
Justin Horder,
Yes.
Chuck Spargo,
Yes.
Betty Brisky-Malley.
Okay, nice to see everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
You too.
Yeah, good night, everyone.
Thank you for your time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.